What's up guys, welcome to another edition of Average Aaron's Auto Videos, and today I'm going to be replacing some front rotors on a 2018 Chrysler Pacifica Limited, and I've obviously already taken the wheel off, so let's jump into it. Alright, so we've got the vehicle in the air, but before you lift it off the ground you want to make sure the emergency brake is on, and you've got some jack stands handy to support it in case the jack fails. Once you get the wheel off, before you get the wheel off and lift it in the air though, you want to come over here to the hood, lift it up and take off the master cylinder cap, which is, just sitting right there. Because we're going to be compressing the brake pistons that push down and activate your brakes, and we're going to be pushing those back in because our new rotor is thicker than the current one that's been worn down, and so we have to make space for it. But we'll get to that later. So once you get your wheel off, I've already got the tools that you'll need listed here, and I recommend using some of this PB Blaster to loosen some of the bolts if they get stuck. However, you may not necessarily need them, but if you do use it, like for instance, this rubber part here, you want to make sure that you don't get any of this PB Blaster on that, because that is corrosive and will wear down the rubber at a faster rate. All right, so up here at the top, you've got a 13mm bolt right here that I've already removed, and then you've got another one right down here, and I'm going to pull that one off as well. And then I'll be able to take the caliper off of the top. I'll show you what that looks like. Comes off just like that. Now, when you do it, you will have to like wiggle it up and down till it comes off, because these little actuators have been depressed or extended when you press the brakes, and they make full contact here with the brake pad on this side, and also kind of pulls in on the brake pad on this side. So from here, these little clips, these are really annoying, and when you put it back on, you may want to put it on the carrier when you pull it off, but this should just wiggle right out on the top, and it comes out here. They will not go in this easy, so just take a picture before you do it so you know how it goes in and how it should come back out. As you can see, not that much brake pad left, but it's still brake pad. It still works. It just takes a little bit more in the wheels to do it. Now, one of the things I don't have is, you can see in here there is some dirt in here, and this is supposed to be a vent for some of the brake dust. So I'm going to clean this out before I put this brake pad back on there. All right, let me get that other brake pad off. This is the one that is a huge pain to put on. Unless you put it on the carrier before you mount it back on. And you can see here this channel is full, so I'm going to use a tool and scrape some of that out. Alright, so I cleaned out those channels so the brake dust will flow out of there a little easier, and then kind of just scrape some off the ends. Alright, now we will get up here to this carrier. And before we do that, I did spray the bolts. Let me move this rotor out of the way. I did spray the bolts in the back with some of that penetrating lubricant. So we got 1 and 2. So I'm just going to loosen those. And you may need a breaker bar for this, but I cannot hold the camera and do it at the same time, so I'll show you what it looks like when I get them off. Alright, so the carrier wasn't too bad to get off. Watch me rip the piece there, oh my gosh. Alright, so what it looks like. I'm just going to use a wire brush and clean some of this out, but do it in a place where there's ventilation, so you don't breathe in all that dust and fine metal particles. So I'll do that off camera. But then I got a jack stand here and put the caliper on it, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to compress these rings in a little bit, but before I can do that, I got to get this rotor off. Now, it's stuck on there really good, and it sits between the brake pads and the carrier and the wheel, and the lug nuts help hold it on, but it is not moving. So like I said, don't need to worry about this. What you do need to do is, if I do this and pull back and forth, it moves the car an awful lot. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put a piece of wood on here and hit the other end of it with this here hammer, and give it a whack, try to loosen it all the way around the edges this way. And it's hard to hammer inside the wheel while coming the other direction, but I'll set this back up here and then hammer coming back in this direction. So I'm going to do that for a little bit, and I'll let you know how long it takes me. It took about 30 seconds, just hitting it about 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a couple hits at each location, and then it came off. The other one didn't come off that easy, and this pulls right off. And I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning in here too, just with a wire brush, but again, make sure it's Just make sure it's good and nice and clean and everything in there. And so let me clean this up, and then I'll show you how to push these little cylinders or pistons back in. All right, so I just did a little light wire brushing, no big deal. So I have replaced a CV axle before, thank you YouTube for that. And it was a pain in the butt to get this off. So I don't need to do anything with this now, but I'm gonna actually go ahead and spray some penetrating oil in here now. So like I said, this vehicle is about 61,000 miles, if I didn't mention it already. Put some in there, and then put some on the back side as well too. I don't think I'll need to replace this for quite a long time, but what this will do is just penetrate in there, kind of dissolve any rust that's been built up over the years, and it won't loosen it or do anything like that because you still have all the connections in the threads. But it will, hopefully, if somebody needs to get in here in a few years, make it just a little bit easier for them to get that off and it isn't connected so bad. So just prepping the groundwork for a few years from now. Don't even know if I'll need it, but that could be one where you definitely do. And then I also know that I've had to get in here on the control arm, and these bad boys have been a huge butt. So this is just prep in case you need it. You probably won't, and some flow in there. So if I need to get to those down the road, I've at least made it slightly easier for myself at that point. All right, so I'm gonna get the new rotor and put it on. Now, it may seem a little odd that, you know, I've got this on here and it's pushed it on all the way. What holds this in? So like, yeah, it can wobble a little bit, but once you get the tire and the lug nuts and everything that are all in place, the brakes and everything, it'll compress and hold it in, and the lug nuts will hold it via the tire. So it'll have enough tension. Don't worry about that as you're putting it in, like, hey, what's holding this? So now what I'm gonna do is find the brake pad. Here we go. And I'm gonna put it in here like this. I'm gonna put a C-clamp between here and here and compress this piston back in there. You obviously can't do it with my hand, but let me go grab the C-clamp and throw that in there so you know what it looks like. All right, so as you can see, I've got the C-clamp on there. I've pressed it in, and this one where I've been pressing it is already pushed in a little more than this other one, and I'll switch the C-clamp over to the other side and compress that one as well. You don't have to push it in all the way, because like I said, I'm only replacing the rotors, not the brakes. However, you do need to push it in or it won't clear. It probably won't clear, I can't say that for certain. And this is why we take the master cylinder cap off, is because we're pushing those pistons in, which is forcing that fluid back up through here. And if this was capped, it'd have a hard time coming out just if we didn't take the lid off. So that's why we do that. So I'm gonna press the other one down. I'll show you what it looks like. Now this one, I couldn't get it to fit in as well because the brake line running out of here. So don't put too much tension against this. You don't wanna rip or nick that and have fluid leaking out. And there's also a little fill valve or a little something on the other side. It's a bleeder valve to you do not want to put the C-clamp over those. So it's a little bit precarious. You got to hold it when you do it, but it really isn't too bad. And then you just turn this like so. And that's why you got to hold two hands and it'll go in there, otherwise it'll come off. But I've already pressed it in, so we're good to go on that account. And I will show you guys. Now we got to put the carrier on next. But what I'm going to do is, while the carrier is right here, I'm going to go ahead and seat the back brake pad, because it's really hard to wiggle in there. So you'll know it's the back one because it'll have the two circle indentations from those pistons that we just compressed, and that'll go on the back side. So it sits up like this when it's on here. So it'll go like this. So I know I want that brake pad with the pistons pushing in the back to sit in here like this. So let me put that in there real quick. All right, so I got it seated, but one of the things you'll notice on this side where there isn't one, there's this middle clip, but in there, that bottom part has that little hook. And let me set it down so I can show you. Doop. I'm gonna use my tool to poke and show. So right here, there's that, oh, there we go, right here. This clip, which let me not block my light, right there. So this side, it holds the far side of the brake pad so that it doesn't accidentally go sliding out this way. Not a big deal, the rotor is kind of going to be there and would quote unquote catch it, but it's meant to stop it from going unless the brake presses it so that it would go and press. So make sure when you put this one in that you have that little clip holding it on each side. See it sticking out right there? Got it there. And also right there. So you want it to hold it in there on that side. So don't push it in so far that you come in from a different angle that clip doesn't hold it in place. You definitely need to have it in there, and I think this one is let me use the tool to poke and show. All right, so it will be right there. This little tab right there, and you'll see when you take it off that that's the one you're shooting for anyway. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. So let me come in here and mount the carrier back on with the one brake pad, and you'll see what it looks like. All right, that was much simpler, mounting that back rear brake first. And again, this brake here, when I put it in, it kind of goes in at an angle like this and then locks in like that on these clips. You'll push it in this way and then rotate it into place like that. That's how I did it. All right, now let's take this carrier and we'll set it down, take it like this, set it down right here and bolt it in. All right, so we got the caliper back on. Now don't be alarmed if there are gaps or, it wiggles a little bit. You'll take care of that when you get in and pump the brakes and put all that back together. So I'm actually not gonna put the wheel back on tonight because I'm gonna actually rotate the tires with it as well too. I did that on the other side, but I wanna clean the tires first. So I'm gonna do a separate video about how to check the brakes for this. But for now, if you're doing this and you do put the wheels back on, you'll want to make sure you put this master cylinder cap back on first, like this. Maybe. Anyway, however it goes back on. There we go. Nope. Anyway, it goes back on. Oh, for the love of Pete. It's gonna kick my butt, isn't it? Anyway, you put that back on, and then they'll help maintain the pressure for the brake cylinder, and also top it off if you need to. I think it takes .3, the brake fluid for it. Super easy to find. And then you'll be set to go. Now, before you drive your car, you'll want to, while it's still in park, you'll pump the brakes a lot and you won't feel anything for a while. You'll feel very minimal resistance. And then after you've been pumping the brakes for a while, you'll feel it start to like tighten up, and you want to continue to do that a little bit until it's like good and solid. And then very slowly, drive around. Don't do anything crazy because you want to test it before you really actually need it out on the roads. So just do a test to make sure everything's going good. It may squeak when you're driving first because it's just burning off all this new metal. There's a little bit of wax coating that'll come off in the first little bit. Not wax, but some type of coating on here that'll come off. Don't worry about any of the noises. New brakes tend to squeak for a little bit, but if it squeaks longer than normal, then maybe take a look and have a professional check it out. Take it to a good store that you trust with a good reputation, and they'll be able to square you away with that stuff. But if you did it yourself and you go for a little while and it works, hey, kudos to you, well done. And this basically ends this video. So if you guys liked it, please hit like or subscribe down below. And as we get more content, we will keep you all posted. Hopefully in the next couple days, we'll be doing a video on a couple things that we can do on this guy right here, but that's for later. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, you guys, and you guys have a good rest of your day. See you guys next time.